the 7 sorrows of Mary, the 7 sorrows of Mary. Just as I name them, just to think about it. The prophecy of Simeon at the presentation of Jesus in the temple, if you pray the rosary regularly. The elderly Simeon foretold that a sword will pierce through your own soul, meaning Mary's soul, too. And then the flight into Egypt, Mary and Joseph fleeing into Egypt with the child Jesus to escape King Herod's wrath in the Gospel of Matthew. And then those days when your father and I have been looking for you, you could feel in the very expression the pain of a mother who loses her child. And into thinking about that yesterday evening, I felt a deep sense of the children, the parents of the children of Ukraine who were taken from Ukraine into Russia and are only slowly being returned to Ukraine. Some of you parents know what it's like to lose your child. How many of you lost your child on Carnival days this year? One or other of the days. And it's only then, in those moments when you were sitting down in the police station wondering where you would find your child, that you realize what true love is all about. So it's out of the pain of loss that comes the attachments, the deepening attachments of parenting and parenthood. And then Mary meets Jesus on the way to Calvary. That's the 4th sorrow of Our Lady. You meet your son, and in the meditations, a question sometimes arises, did the soldiers bar her from approaching her son? Or did some soldier, with a sense of his own mother, escort her to the part of the path where he was weighed down by the cross so that she could take him into her arms and console him? And then, of course, the crucifixion, where she stands at the foot of the cross, drenched in the blood of her son, watching him die. And then the scene that has been made immortal by Michelangelo. Jesus is taken down from the cross and placed in the arms of his mother. Wow. Yes. So all mothers who have to deal with a son who is placed in their arms, and the mothers of Gaza, of Ukraine, of Sudan, and the mothers whom we know here. There have been over the past year, I've been able to hear about a number of deaths of young men, and you wonder to yourself about the pain of the mothers of these young men. Taken down from the cross, and keep the two things together, taken down from the cross and then placed in the arms of his afflicted mother. The burial of Jesus, what kind of burial it would have been is not the hole is dug, And people often say to me, and 1 or 2 mothers have done that the worst part of saying goodbye to your son or your daughter is when you hear that earth thudding on the coffin as the grave is filled. There is no earth thudding on a coffin when you put somebody in a tomb, as is becoming the more common thing in Grenada. There's no closing off of the tomb by the weight of the slab. Sometimes a slab closing over can make some noise. But there must be a certain emptiness as you see the people who are closing the tomb just slapping cement on it. And then, I'm not sure which is a more painful and a more sorrowful moment, I'm not sure. Maybe one of you have had that experience, might help us to grapple with it, not to just write it off, but to really grapple with it so that in the grappling, we might enter into our own deeper experience of the seven sorrows of Mary.
We do have a caller online. Good morning and welcome to Conversations.
Good morning, Mrs. Victor. Good morning, Bishop.
Good morning.
I'm listening to the seven sorrows of our Blessed Mother. And the seventh one that you mentioned, that dust falling down on the coffin. I have the reverse of that at my mother's funeral. I mean, I didn't want to lose my mother. She was buried. And I was upset. But when they threw that first set of dust on the coffin, I went crazy. Something happened inside of me. And I remember grabbing onto my aunt and I said to her, "Don't you love your sister for you to allow them to do that to her?" That was 26 years ago.
Amen.
And it bothers me every funeral that I attend when that dust that's falling on that coffin. I feel it and I remember my mother and I get really, really, really upset, really emotional.